Good afternoon. This is another episode of Meet the Candidate. As you know, this time of the year around, almost every single year that we are running into the election years, today is not different from any other seasons of elections. So today I have a very, very good friend who is a former judge and also a candidate for Justice Court Department 6, Judge Bill Gonzalez.
Tuan, again, for the audience, my name is Bill Gonzalez. It's a pleasure to be on your show again. I believe I was here 2 years ago, and it's always a great time being on this show. At least it means a lot to me.
Thank you, Judge. The question that I have for you is, why are you running against this time?
Well, for me, it was an honor to serve in our community for 6 years. It was a family court. It gave me the opportunity to not only serve in the courtroom, but to serve in the community. I was able to do outreach with students in our community and talk about important issues regarding education, going to college, having a career. Serving in the community is just part of my DNA, and I'm looking forward to having that opportunity. And there are many individuals in our community, from our police organizations to our community organizations. I know you belong to the Asian Chamber of Commerce as well as I, and we're all out there with the same purpose, is to make our community a better place to live.
Since I know you, and you always showing your support for the community, and I see you on most of the community event. So let me ask you a very key question though, because majority of the people, they probably do not understand, including myself, what is the difference between the Justice Court and the District Court?
Okay, so Justice Court is a county seat. My particular race only covers the city of Las Vegas and some parts of unincorporated Clark County, and Justice Court handles minor crimes, misdemeanors. So if you have a minor, a petty theft, if you have a DUI, you could end up in Justice Court. We have a lot of cases involving domestic violence, and so it's a criminal court. But also there's other court departments within Justice Court. They have two civil departments. So if you get into a small accident, the claim is less than $15,000, you could end up in Justice Court. For example, if you're a landlord and you have a dispute with your tenant, let's say your tenant isn't paying the rent, then you could go to Justice Court because they handle evictions. As well, if you're a tenant and your landlord isn't living up to his obligations, then you could end up in Justice Court. A lot of people who end up getting tickets in our community for speeding, for traffic violations, you would end up in Justice Court. As far as for the audience, I'd just like to let them know, because of COVID, you no longer have to appear in Justice Court if it's a Justice Court ticket. So for example, you could go online. Once you go online in Justice Court, you select traffic ticket, and you could pay your fine, and they will reduce it to a parking ticket. So there's no points on your insurance. You don't need to have an attorney. It's a real easy process that they've made it easier, because a traffic ticket isn't a criminal offense, it's a civil offense.
So my understanding was that you have to have an attorney to basically going to court for you and probably reducing to the parking ticket, but that is no longer be the case?
That is no longer the case. And again, if you could have a ticket in municipal court, I don't know how that works in municipal court. On your ticket at the top, it'll say whether it's Justice Court or municipal court. But on Justice Court, if you wait maybe a week or so after you get the ticket, you can go online yourself. It allows you to pay your ticket, and it'll say right there that it'll be reduced to a parking ticket, so you don't have to worry about your insurance rates going up. So those are some of the cases. Justice Court also, for example, District Court is not a court of original jurisdiction. So if you commit a felony, you don't go directly into District Court. You have to have either a grand jury hear your case and then it's sent to District Court, or you have what's called a preliminary hearing in Justice Court to determine if there's sufficient evidence to send a gross misdemeanor or a felony over to District Court. And so you will handle minor misdemeanors and preliminary hearings that could be a murder case. As far as my experience, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've done criminal defense for 10 years. In this particular court, justice court, I was down there every day for 5 years. I've represented thousands of clients ranging from minor misdemeanors. I've done jury felony murder trials. So my experience over the years, whether it's civil or criminal, is very extensive. And again, I've been serving the community for 25 years. The voters may not know this, but in 2009, I was selected to go through a judicial selection process. That's a process when there is a judge who retires or is no longer able to serve, and you have the chief judge of the Nevada State Supreme Court, you have attorneys from the governor's office, from the state bar, and then you would have somebody like yourself, somebody from the community that would listen to the applicants, and they will look at your experience in the courtroom, but also your experience in the community. And for me, what I always tell people, when you're talking to a candidate, a lot of them are going to tell you what they're going to do, and you should ask the question, well, tell me what you have done in our community. Right. And for me, I served on the Housing Authority Board for 4 years. During that time, we fought for affordable housings for low-income families, our senior citizens, our veterans. It was a kind of like a pro bono service in the community. I served as on the advisory board for the law school to allow students have legal practice in immigration cases, family law cases, criminal cases. So the other thing that I got to do as a judge, I would go into some of the more poorer communities and go into the schools and talk to kids about education, about gun safety. And the kids would actually see a judge not in the courtroom for the first time, but in the classroom. So I think as an elected official, we have an obligation to be out in the community and make a difference there as well.
As I mentioned earlier, that every single event that I go, you probably be there as well. So you are well rooted in the communities. But more importantly, that especially for the AAPI community, I was one of the commissioners, and I was the vice chair for the AAPI for the county. And I understand that majority of the Asian community that endorsing you. So how many endorsements that you have, in this particular race?
So in this particular race, I probably have over 40 endorsements.
Wow, impressive.
I have the endorsement of our sheriff elect, Kevin McMahill. All major law enforcement here in our community, the firefighters. I have organizations from different unions out there. Individuals in our community that I'm very honored, and the one thing that I would say is half of my heart feels Asian. I have so many Asian friends that treat me like family, and and to me, the Asian community, I have much love for them. It's really, really important. As you know, I've been married for 35 years.
Wow.
I have 4 children. Their ages are, the 2 boys are 34 and 32.
Wow.
I have 2 girls that are 26 and 1 that's 22. My oldest son is going to law school in San Diego.
Congratulations.
I'm very happy about that. I have 2 that have graduated from college and 1 who will graduate from college in April. And for me, I understand the importance on a personal level of having safety in our community.
Sure.
And we need judges that need to understand that we're different. We come from different cultures. We speak different languages. I believe it's an advantage. I'm bilingual. I speak Spanish and English. But I think it's an advantage and not a disadvantage for people in our community to speak more than one language.
Absolutely.
But you need a judge who's able to understand those issues. So when you're in the courtroom, you can make the best decision possible. As a judge in justice court, when somebody gets arrested, if they do get arrested and they come before you, you'll make a decision in justice court whether that person is a threat to the community and needs to be locked up, or whether that person, for example, let's say you got a traffic ticket and you forgot about it, and you get a bench warrant because you forgot about your traffic ticket, and you get picked up by the police. Well, you don't need to be in jail. You're not a violent person. You just made a mistake. So a justice of the peace should give you what's called your own recognizant release. You shouldn't have to pay bail. You should just be able to get out and resolve your ticket.
And in fact, that it saved the state quite a bit of money too, because if you are arresting people, you have to provide certain services.
Absolutely.
And basically that is going to cost quite a bit. But that is depending on the case by case, correct?
Absolutely. So for example, obviously if you have somebody who's committed a very serious crime, let's say a murder case, I mean, we had a couple murder cases in our community in the last couple of weeks or so. And you don't know what that person, when they're at that point, if they're going to harm somebody else. So you have to be able to assess that as a judge and make a determination. Again, is this somebody who just needs some help, or is this somebody, if you get out, somebody in the community could be at risk? And so it's very important to have people who are experienced in the courtroom, experienced with, cases. As a district court judge, I had probably 10,000 different cases. And a lot of those cases involved domestic violence. They involved, drugs. And so you need to have somebody with that type of experience, so when they get on the bench, they're able to protect our community.
Right. You touched a little bit earlier about the pro bono works that you have done before. So the question is that when you going back on the bench, would you still be able to do the pro bono works?
You can still do pro bono work, but it's a different type of a work. So I'll give you an example. They have Legal Aid of Southern Nevada. You have Nevada Legal Services that they provide legal services to members of our community that have a need but don't have the ability to pay for an attorney. And so they request that each attorney at least one case a year, and many of them do way beyond that, to help those individuals be represented in court. For me, since I speak Spanish, I always take cases involving Spanish-speaking clients, because for English clients, there are plenty of attorneys out there, but for some of the other languages, to be able to talk to your attorney in your own language, there's not that many. And I imagine as far as for Vietnamese individuals who have that need, the waiting list would be fairly long. So yes. I always took Spanish-speaking clients because I can speak their language, I can help them through the process. And so that's something that's always been important. As a judge, what I would do is I would go with representatives, and we put on a CLE. A CLE is, you get credits for legal education, that you have to take so many credits each year. And so we would put on a presentation regarding pro bono work. We would ask the attorneys in that office to take a case, and they would get credit for taking that case and be able to help somebody out. So that's how you're able to help as a judge. You can't represent somebody, but you can go out and try to increase the number of attorneys that are willing to represent somebody at no cost.
Well, several years ago, I understand that we have a chaos in the court system here because the backlog of the cases. So is it still existing, or is it still, is it under the control now?
So there's a number of things. With COVID, and basically that hit the court system about February of 2020, maybe March of 2020. At that time, because they didn't have the experience to really know how serious or how infectious this disease was going to be, so they stopped having trials of any type. And unless it was, somebody, you're in jail and you need to have an opportunity to be in front of a court to get out of jail, or on criminal cases. There was a lot of cases that there was a large backload of trials because of that alone. I think that at this point they're doing better on catching up on those, but there's still a backlog. In the abuse and neglect, where you have children going into the foster care system, they had major issues with that. And probably about, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago, they had a committee, and instead of having just one family court judge deal with those cases and deal with adoptions, now we have, I think, 5 or 6. And so that backload has decreased significantly. The other thing that I would have to say, when I became a family court judge, I had 1,600 open cases.
Wow.
That's a lot of cases for one judge.
Sure.
Over a period of a couple of years, I got that down to 400 cases. And how I did that is I would come in early in the morning, I would read all the legal documents, I would be prepared when I came into court. I created an atmosphere where the parties could come into court, reach a resolution, and hopefully get out of court quickly, because court gets very expensive, and when you're dealing with families and you're going through a divorce, you have less resources and funds available. So for me, it's not necessarily a issue with the court system being broke that cases take so long. You need to have somebody who's going to take their responsibility as an elected official and be responsible, be a steward over the responsibility you have been given. And when you have that, you can have our court system will run a lot smoother. If you have somebody who doesn't show up or doesn't have the experience, you're going to get a different result.
Well, thank you so much, Judge. As I probably have said before, Judge Bill Gonzalez has been a friend of the API community for a very, very long time, and he has showing that the experience and also the ability to be on the bench. So if you wanted to learn more about Judge William Gonzalez, which is Bill Gonzalez, Las Vegas Justice Court Department 6, you need to learn a little bit more about the judge, and hopefully that you will endorsing him by voting your vote this coming November. So the last question that I have for you, Judge, is that what is in your mind that why do you do things that you don't have to do?
All right, Tuan, I think it's who you are as a person. Right. And I look at everybody, whether I'm in the courtroom or I'm just in the community, as my brother and sister. Right. I don't see differences of language. I don't see difference of ethnicity or colors. I just see a brother and a sister. Right. And when you look at the world from that perspective, it's very different. And I think we need to have judges that have that perspective. Some of that you can't teach. You have to have that as part of the way you were raised, to give to others, to help others who are, I've been very fortunate, I've had a great career, I've been able to care for my family, and there are less fortunate people in our community. I remember several years ago, the Filipino community would go down to, I think, 7th or 8th Street, and they would provide, hot food, for the homeless there. And my family, we'd go out, we'd bring food, and we'd bring clothes, and we'd help them there, because you do things because it's the right thing to do. Right. And I think as a judge, that's very important. You have to have compassion for other people. You have to have, obviously, the legal experience and know the rules of procedure, the criminal laws and everything, but you need to have a heart that you're trying to help people. And if you do that, not only do you do a good job, for your community, but you're able to help other people. And I think that's what it's all about. And so as a judge, November 8th is my birthday, so I'm looking for a nice birthday present. Right. I promise our community, when you come into my courtroom, you will see diversity. When I was on the bench, I had 5 law clerks. They were all from UNLV. I had a Chinese American, Middle Eastern American, African American. I had 1 male, and then I had a Caucasian. I had a black court clerk, a black marshal. I had a Pacific Islander. I had a Latina as my secretary. You walk into my courtrooms, you would see a representation of our community. And that's what I'm going to do when I'm back on the bench, provide opportunities, because there are so many well-qualified, persons from the AIPI community, from the Latino community. We need to provide, opportunities for them to advance. And the final thing I would say, anytime if you have a situation where you want somebody to come out to talk to youth about education and about our community and about employment, I'm always willing and available. My wife and I don't know if you're familiar with Hope for Prisoners. Yes. They have a program for when people transition from prison. My wife has gone out there as mentors to speak with them and to give them hope. That's why it's called Hope for Prisoners, and to talk to them about second chances and to take advantage of it. And that's just part of who I am, and that's why I'm asking for your vote, because I care about our community. I'm going to keep our community safe, and I'm going to show up for every day at work and do the best job I can.
Well, thank you so much, Judge. Thank you for the opportunity to sit down with you and learn more about you. And I'm glad that the Vietnamese community I am sure that because I told them that this is someone that you wanted to be on the bench, and they are most of them agree with me. So hopefully you probably have the same idea that again November when you have to go to vote. So remember Bill Gonzalez, Las Vegas Justice Court Department 6.
Thank you very much, Tuan.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
Judge. Thank you, Judge.